be sparking and rushing mad like inside the dark. Call me Bill Snatcher, just a brother for the rapture. I hang live, holding on strong, hard to capture. Extravagant, resurrect the track and it's militant. And I react like a convict and start killing. It's manifested. The gods work like appliances, dealing in my cycle a lot.
Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys some major spoilers for the upcoming Boruto manga chapter 57, which will be out in 4 days. And I gotta say, first of all, thank you to Organic Dinosaur for translating some of these spoilers, and boy do we have quite a bit to get into. So obviously, if you're an anime only fan, this is a time of the month where a lot of the content that you're gonna see on the channel is gonna be spoiler heavy outside of the anime episode reviews on Sundays. So with that being said though, if you're still here, I'm assuming that you guys are caught up with the manga, or you're somebody like me who doesn't really care about spoilers. So the news in this last chapter is that it's going to be extremely heavy when it comes to exploring Code and Eida and Bug, but also we have the 5 Kage Summit, and that's where a lot of huge news is actually being dropped in via these spoilers. So according to what Organic Dinosaur is able to translate, one of the things that we find out is that Naruto has a huge dilemma as a father, and I'm all here for that pain and suffering that Naruto's gone to. At this point, I'm waiting for Naruto to just walk out the Hokage Summit meeting, go back to the academy, sit down on that swing and start swinging on that swing for a little bit as he clears his mind, because this is freaking huge. So essentially, according to Organic Dinosaur, she says that Amado concocted some Byakugan suppressant drugs and he gave them to Naruto, and the whole purpose of this is that it's supposed to suppress the Otsutsuki transformation that Boruto undergoes, and it's supposed to limit the usage of the Byakugan, and so Boruto would have to take these drugs on a regular basis. However, the potential side effects, and these are huge: losing the ability to see, and it could actually lead up to death. So that's huge. That's huge. I've seen a lot of people saying, why would Naruto take this risk? You gotta understand this. By now, you should have seen the video that I put up where I said that somebody in the 5 Kage should at least, at the bare minimum, approach the subject of executing Boruto, because Naruto and Sasuke are no longer strong enough to actually stop Momoshiki if he revives inside of Boruto's body, and that had to be a discussion that was on the table. And in that video, one thing that I said, yo, there could be a possibility that Naruto says, I will agree to this. However, if we find a way to actually prevent my son from becoming an Otsutsuki, that execution order has to be left off the table. That's why I compared it to what you get in Jujutsu Kaisen, where this is basically the story counting down to Itadori Yuji's execution. That's not a spoiler. That is something that was said at the very beginning of Jujutsu Kaisen's anime. But what I will say though, is that people have been giving Naruto all this crap, but I think it perfectly shows the dilemma that Naruto is in, because when we first see Naruto's Hokage in Naruto chapter 700, which as a reminder has not been adapted by the Boruto anime, so to fully understand what I'm saying, you have to actually read the manga for this. But in Naruto chapter 700, one of the things that we were specifically told about the Naruto and Boruto relationship was the fact that Naruto had to pull his son to the side and say, hey, I have to be a Hokage before I can be your father. And sometimes that means, a lot of the times that means, you're not gonna be my top priority. The whole village is my family. And we saw this to an extent in the earlier parts of the Boruto manga, but we have not actually seen it a whole lot in the aftermath of everything that's happened since then. It's basically been Naruto and Sasuke. They've been fighting against these different car members. They've been fighting against Jigen. We haven't really seen Naruto have to make that Hokage level decision. You could argue maybe the Baryon form, but this is the thing. People have been giving Naruto crap for this. I'm okay with Naruto's decision here. I don't think this means he's giving up on his son. If anything, what this is saying is that Naruto's like, look, those drugs could kill my son, but I believe that he can come out on the other side of this. And in fact, according to the spoilers, Naruto says, even if the worst case scenario becomes a reality, at least, well, up until that time comes, I don't want to believe it will happen. So that right there lets you know that Naruto has prepared himself for the possibility his son could die. But he's in the same situation that his father Minato was in. Minato had to choose between being a selfish father and wanting to stay alive to raise his son, which Minato had that option for if he would have let Kushina drag the Kyuubi with her to death, like how she suggested, I think, in Naruto chapter 503. But Minato had that option and he didn't. That's the whole purpose for my What If Minato Never Died video. But what I will say though is that Minato chose as a Hokage to do the right thing for the village, even if it came at the expense of his son's happiness. Now, when you look at Naruto, he's paralleling his father in that exact same way. Naruto has the option to be a selfless father and say, hey, I don't know how long I got left with my son, but I'm gonna stay here with them and I'm gonna fight like hell to find a way to actually reverse this. Or you have Naruto as a Hokage who says, well, if we can prevent any short-term transformations into Momoshiki by giving Boruto these drugs, even though it could take away my son's ability to actually see me, or it could lead to my son actually dying, I'll be able to protect the village in the short term and potentially in the long term by doing this. Naruto has to make the tough decision here, and what I like in this moment is that Amado even looks over at Naruto according to these spoilers and he says, I had a daughter too, so I too understand how you feel. Well, it's been 12 years. She passed away. So as a quick reminder, we are 16 years removed from the end of the 4th Great Ninja War, okay? So if we say that all these events that have taken place after the Vessel arc have only been a few weeks that have passed during that time, that means that we haven't quite made it to Boruto's birthday, because the end of the 4th Great Ninja War is in October. Boruto turns 13 on the very next calendar year. If we say that Amado is saying that there are 12 years, that opens up the possibility of you saying that maybe something ties back into the after effects of what happened after Naruto the Last. You know, I don't want to go too much into theories on this, but one way you could kind of play with it is if something happened when all those meteors came down to the earth during the events of Naruto the Last, and then 2.5 years after that transpires, you have something to where Delta ultimately ends up passing away after that, which would kind of give you wiggle room to play with, given the fact that in the 2 years after that, that's around the time that Sasuke Shinden Sunrise should be taking place. That gives you a little wiggle room for when you can actually play around with Amado losing his daughter. That's the beautiful thing about there being roughly a 10-year gap between the last novel that takes place during the blank period in Naruto chapter 700, is you got a little bit you can actually play with. That's very telling that Amado says that I used to have a daughter, and like you guys know, I go with the translations that people that actually speak Japanese did back when the chapters were still available for scanlation. Like I've said in the past, Viz Media, I love using the official translations, but Viz Media will change stuff and they've been called out on it in the past. And so in the official translation, it doesn't refer to Delta as Amado's daughter, but when you look at the translations that Ray and Organic Dinosaur and a few other people have done, Delta was referred to as, if I'm not mistaken, Delta was referred to during that time as Amado's daughter. So the reason why that's so huge is that's Amado giving Naruto a little bit of a pep talk saying, I know where you're coming from and I know how hard this is, but I think this is so ironic when you look at it, because you're in a situation where Momoshiki told Boruto, those blue eyes of yours will take everything away from you. And now Boruto is being given a drug that could potentially take away his vision. That is huge. Obviously, we know that Boruto's not going to lose his vision because we had the flash forward sequence. However, the problem that we're running into is that a lot of people do not understand what the purpose of a flash forward sequence is when it comes from a writing aspect. So this is where me having a background as an editorial assistant for 3.5 years, this is where I can kind of give you a little bit of extra information. So essentially, the purpose of a flash forward sequence is, yes, to tease what is going to happen in the future, but it's also to backdoor create more tension for the reader, because the purpose of that sequence is to build anticipation, because whatever deadly situation that you know that the protagonist is in, it's going to make you wonder, how in the world did they actually get out of this situation? How did they survive? How did they escape? How did we get to this point where everything went to crap? That is the purpose of Boruto's flash forward sequence, is to subconsciously build that tension for you. That's why you see Boruto in these situations where he's putting his life on the line for Sasuke, because it's making you wonder subconsciously, are they changing the flash forward? Are we actually still gonna get to that point? That's the purpose, or one of the purpose for that. That's why a lot of writers actually use that literature technique right there. But I digress though, I digress. I think that it is, in a backdoor way, it's actually low-key kind of brilliant what's actually being done there. So overall, I'm very excited about these actual spoilers, man. I'm actually gonna talk a little bit more in depth about these Byakugan drugs, because there's a bit more symbolism to it that I think some of you guys are missing. So can't wait to go more in depth on that, but I'm gonna cut this one off because this video is actually getting a little longer than what I would like. So my question to you guys is, where do you fall on the Naruto Hokage debate? Do you think that Naruto is giving up on his son, or do you think that Naruto is acting like his father Minato and just choosing the best option for the village, even if it causes him and his son some discomfort? Which option do you think is right? Let me know down in the comment section below. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.